Hey everybody, welcome back to the farm. So this week I was going to show you the farrier using his angle grinder on the girl's feet, but my camera died before I got it all done. So I'm going to show you what I was able to get before the camera died. But most of you know that this is a Yoder shoeing stock. They're built up in Ohio, and these are the mainstay in horse shoeing stocks. And one of the horses that's being boarded here just absolutely positively will not pick up her feet. I do not know what her previous life was like and why she won't pick up her feet. The owner said he wasn't sure either. So he has to use a set of stocks. Now, this is an older set of Yoder stocks, but they're still serviceable. It doesn't help that they're sitting outside, just continuing to, weather, but they still work. And if you notice, this platform down here is extra high, and these are the extended height platform. And what it does is it allows the farrier to work more in an upright position versus a bending over the whole time. So if you imagine the bottom of the horse's foot would be right here, I'm not even bending over. I mean, I can get to the foot right here. I can do everything I need right here. And then the same when you put the foot in the front over here, I'm bending over very little to get to it. So it's a back saver feature, but it's not a standard option on these. It is an option. It's not a standard feature is what I'm trying to say. You can get these stocks in the standard form if you go up there and see Amos, you can get them for about $1,425 brand new. But they still go for $800 on the used market, 20 years old. So they hold their value pretty well. I don't know how much more it is for the extended height version, but my Amish buddy up in Ohio, Raymond, the guy that builds these, Amos Yoder, is Raymond's wife's cousin. So I was able to go over to his shop and see these being built out, and that was pretty neat on one of my trips. But on one of my future trips, I need to go back over there and make a video of these things in the raw. But as I was saying, one of the horses absolutely positively will not pick up her feet, and she has to be sedated on top of that. When the farrier came, he sedated her. She walked right into here, and then he was able to work on her, but it was still hard to get her feet up. She just doesn't like to pick them up. Now, her feet are so hard that he was having a hard time with the nippers. And so he broke out the angle grinder, and on my horses, which I'll show you hopefully in an upcoming video, he used the nippers on my horses all the way through. But on these horses, their feet are just so hard, he has to use the angle grinder part of the time, and then he has to use the nippers another part of the time. If you'll notice, her hoof walls are extremely thick. But this horse threw a front left shoe about 3 weeks ago. Don't know where it happened and never found the shoe. The reason she's got shoes on the front is because her feet are very unstable, and they crack and they fracture, and they're just really bad feet. So they've been shoeing the front to stabilize the foot and help all the cracks and imperfections grow out. But in that 3 weeks that she had thrown that shoe, everything that Orla, the farrier, had been working on was just shot. So basically he was starting over again from scratch on her left foot. Unfortunately, her left foot is what I lost all the video on. But I did get her right foot. The angle grinder is just a standard angle grinder, and he's using a round disc, a very coarse, like maybe a 60 or an 80 coarse grit. I'm not sure exactly, what it was, but it was basically just a piece of paper. I mean, it was like sandpaper. It was very, very pliable. It had a backing on it, but he could really bear down on it, and you'll see it flexing, when he's pushing down. But it really makes quick work of the hard hooves, and it just eats up material, the sole and the hoof wall and that type of stuff. Now, again, he had to do it kind of hybrid. He had to do part with the nipper and part with the angle grinder. But on a lot of horses, he can just use the angle grinder the entire time from start to finish. But again, her feet were so hard that he had to use this. And you'll notice that a lot of times when these draft horses wear a shoe, they have a toe clip on the front, and that helps keep that shoe on and helps them keep them from throwing it. Normally he can just take the hoof knife and just scallop out the front of the toe, but her feet were so thick, her hoof walls were so thick that he couldn't do that. So he had to take his nippers and nip a notch. And you can see once he takes his shoe off, you can see the old notch on there, but once he nips the hoof wall around, he has to nip a new notch in there. And that's not the most attractive thing, but he didn't have an option because he's not able to scallop it with the hoof knife and make it nice and pretty. But it still worked. So I was able to get the front right hoof pretty much from start to finish. And then on the backs, all he did was just which I got no footage of the backs, he was able to just take the angle grinder and grind the majority of it off. He had to do a little bit of nipping to shape it, but it's just amazing how much faster the angle grinder is when you're dealing with a horse that's sedated and in a stock and you've got her foot tied up. You need to do it as quickly as possible so that you can give her foot back, and that grinder really helps out. It speeds the process up so much more. Got to put a little bit of putty right there in that toe clip. Just like this over here. That'll allow it to grind out smooth. So by the time he got done with all 4 feet, the sedation was wearing off and she was starting to get a little bit rowdy and wanting to come out. But as soon as we took her belly chains off and her back chains and took her butt chains off, she knew she was free and opened up the front of the stock here, and she just walked right out and immediately went to grazing. So the sedation lasted for maybe, 15 minutes or so. The biggest part was just trying to get her feet up. And I didn't video any of that trying to get her feet up because it took, 2 people. It took, we had to put this rope on her foot, and then one person's got to pull the rope, and then the other person has got to try to bend her at the back of the knee so that her leg will bend, and then once her leg bends you can get her hoof up a little bit and then set her hoof up here. But it took both of us to do that, so I wasn't able to get any of that on camera. But next time he comes back and he's working on my girls, I'll get him to do the angle grinder from start to finish on their hooves, because their hooves aren't hard and he can do them real quick. And it's an art for sure, because the grinder is going so fast, but you can just do the job of cleaning up their feet and trimming them so much faster. So anyway, I appreciate you guys watching this week. As always, remember who you are, be kind to those around you, and stand up for what you believe in.